Sexy Beast is a new show on Paramount Plus, but it's also a prequel to a film that came out in the year 2000 with the same title. Sexy Beast the movie is about, Pedro, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about a retired gangster who's chilling, living his life in a villa in Spain with his wife. And I think his former gangster buddy, they're like neighbors. I don't know if that's ever made clear, but they seem to hang out, go to dinner, drink, hang out by the pool. When a former gangster decides to pop in, played by Ben Kingsley, for one last big, what do you call it? One last big
heist.
And just I kind of knew that going into the film, but I didn't understand, and I didn't know that 75% of the film was going to take place in that villa, and Ben Kingsley's character Don was just going to terrorize these people.
Yes.
So it was a real psychological treat, because there's this tension of an expectation of violence that never comes. But it's like at a 10 the whole time this guy shows up. And that's kind of the baseline for the movie. Other things happen beyond that. I won't spoil them, but it's pretty intense. And I did hear that Ben Kingsley was nominated for an Oscar for that performance.
I read that too.
Yeah.
There were two parts I thought was odd. Where did that
Scott,
rock
let me just cut you before
Yes.
we get to that. There's a prequel now on Paramount Plus with these characters, sort of this going through how they got to the point in the film. So before the film, what their lives were like, and we decided to watch both of these and then discuss them. I watched the show first, and that might have been a mistake.
That was ballsy of you.
Because it was 15 minutes. That's the only why. That's the only reason. Scott, what did you watch first?
I watched the show first as well. Because most of the time, the show is a very distant, based on type of storyline. It's sort of... Was the show a prequel?
Yes.
Of the movie? So that's why I watched it first. I wasn't trying to do a George Lucas thing where he makes you watch 3 movies and says, all right, now we're going to have you go back and then you're going to go forward and back. I wanted to beat that and watch the show first.
Pedro, you had watched the film long ago. You recommended it.
Yeah.
Did you revisit the movie or did you go straight into the show?
I did. I revisited the movie. And then I think I watched the pilot episode the following day. Personally, that's how I like to, when it comes to like prequels, that's how I like to do it. I like to see the original first. And I think anytime that, something's considered like quote unquote a classic or an underground classic, or like something that's just really, people have said it's something really good, it's always, by my opinion, good to watch, what sets the bar first and then what comes second, because nothing that comes out today is ever going to compare to anything of the originals, right? Not the Star Wars prequels, not any of this stuff.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult.
But yeah, I definitely had to revisit it, and I haven't, like you said, I hadn't watched it in a few years, and it definitely feels dated now. But this movie it's about the acting. It's about Ben Kingsley's intense just character.
He's a maniac.
It's one of his best performances, and just this build up towards, you start off in this calm, serene Spanish villa, like you said. This guy's just sun tanning.
Yeah,
he's enjoying the weather. Next thing you know, a boulder comes crashing down into his pool, which is kind of like foreshadowing that this like force of nature is about to strike him.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
And then it just continuously builds up. It's a slow build, and then you get to like this heist at the end. That's this just amazing heist. I've never seen an underwater heist done before.
Right. but it's downplayed. I like the fact that the heist is not even secondary, it's tertiary to everything that's going on, because you have this, psychopathic mobster in Don who shows up and he convinces Gal to go on this one last heist. But what happens then is Gal executes the heist, and there's no hiccup, there's not a ton of drama in the heist itself, because he goes and he just gets the job done. But when he tries to leave, there's another psychopath questioning him and grilling him, who's Teddy Bass, who's another mobster, who's the guy who hired him.
Yeah, he's kind of like one of the bosses of this criminal organization.
Yeah, so he goes from being in the water, metaphorically being in the water with a shark, to then being, once he frees himself, then he's like in a cage with a lion in the second part of the movie. And then finally he kind of, he's allowed to get away back to his Spanish villa. But I thought it was immensely stressful, the whole movie, in a good way.
Yeah. I mean, it's psychological stress brought on by Don, Ben Kingsley's character. He's just upsetting the life that this guy, his wife, and his friend and his wife have, leading this quiet life. He just stirs things up. It all comes to like a fight, to a boiling point where they actually end up killing him, because Gal, he's been refusing him, but this guy isn't taking no for an answer, to go back to London and do this job. And it results in him getting killed, and Gal going back to London to do this job as one last job, because that's it. He's forced to do it. But coming back, it's like, it's not as easy to come back, because you get there and they're asking him, hey, where's Don? This guy was sent over to recruit you. You're coming back without him.
Right.
Why is he no showing for this job? That's not like him. And that's when it gets into this other sort of cycle, like you said, Teddy Bass and his sort of like mental mind games with Gal.
And they play that really well against the audience, because they cut to Gal arriving in London, and he's asked about Don, and he says, yeah, Don called me from Heathrow just to say he landed safely, so he's good, but no one knows where he is. And Teddy is saying, well, he never showed up, he never arrived. And my instinct in that moment was thinking, damn, Don stayed back in Spain and he's killing Gal's family and friends, because he's a psychopath. I was like, this guy stayed back there, he set up Gal to kill those guys. But then they reveal what actually happened when they jump back to that scene, and it's like,
yeah, that was cool because it jumped. Yeah, you're right, I forgot. It jumps to him in London going there for the job, but it doesn't tell you what led to him
how he got
being
there.
Convinced to go over there.
Yeah. Scott, shoot.
I had trouble following the movie just because of the accents, and everything was just so subtle.
You fucking cunt.
The C word was used a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
I was wondering when we would reach the point where we would do an explicit episode, and we finally reached that point.
We did.
You said you said the queen of all words, and we reached it.
It's said quite frequently in the film and in the series too.
Oh, it is, but you'll probably have to bleep it, because
anyway,
our official bleep. Yes, I did not miss that word. I did not miss that.
But you had trouble.
I heard that loud and clear.
I had trouble with the accents too.
But I didn't have trouble with that word. I heard that word loud and clear. But yes, I was. But then I was the heist felt so subtle. It's like, oh, that's the heist. Okay.
They spent a little time on the lead up and the setup, sort of kind of explaining a little bit, or showing, not so much explaining, but at least showing you what the intent was, that they were going to rob this guy's bank. But you had no idea how they were going to do that, and you had no idea why they needed Gal to do it, which they did. But yeah, I think they probably spent about 20 minutes on that scene, and like the setup and the execution, before Gal, dried off and walked off with the two priceless earrings or rings for his wife.
So just so you guys, just so people can understand how crazy Sir Ben Kingsley's performance was, there's trivia that's on IMDb that says reportedly the other actors were so stunned by the ferocity of Sir Ben Kingsley's performance that they occasionally forgot their lines, and much of the fear in their performances wasn't difficult to act.
Yeah, I was scared on my couch. I was like, especially
Yeah,
for H. Oh my God, H,
he
Gal's
made me
friend.
really uncomfortable.
So in comparing that to the show, Pedro, I'm curious because you had already seen the film. You kind of knew about this character Don. But what I like about the movie too is it puts you in these people's lives for 2 days, but it doesn't give you any background whatsoever. How they know each other, what happened in the past, are they in good terms, or like why are they in bad terms? Why are they so afraid of him? Why is everything so intense? You get nothing of that. You get a little peek when he goes to London, but almost nothing. And going into the show, which is a prequel, they're at liberty to fill in all of those blanks. There was a couple of details in there in the movie that they played with, but they have the liberty to kind of do whatever they want now to make up this backstory. But I'm just curious, what you guys think of the show in comparison and what it was trying to do?
I think the way this movie was made, that where it's sort of like you know the it sort of all just takes place in this one house for like 80% of the movie, and it's really just about one thing, and it's this psycho terrorizing these people trying to convince this guy to go back. It leaves it wide open to anything, and I think a prequel series is like the perfect way to continue on this franchise, sort of. I'm surprised it wasn't done before,
Mm-hmm.
that it took this long. But the good thing is that it leaves everything completely open to be told of how they got to that point in the movie. And sure, they're not friends, but maybe they were 10, 15 years ago when they were just starting out. And yeah, sure, Don isn't as crazy now, but you start seeing like these little hints at him starting to snap. Part of it is his abusive mother that's just like trying to propel him to become a bigger name in the criminal underworld and to like do more heists and stuff, and she's just like verbally abusing him the whole first episode anytime we see her on
I think
screen.
that's his sister.
Oh, is it his sister? Okay.
Yeah, the blonde woman.
Yes, the older woman in the
Yeah, that's
in
his older
that
sister.
sort of like casino bar type thing.
Yeah.
And then kind of, there was a scene where you see them, they're like hanging out at a nightclub with some friends, and you see like he's kind of like socially awkward. The girls are kind of like laughing at him, so you start seeing like him getting frustrated, and that's like a little remnant of the movie. But like I said, nothing modern is ever gonna be as good as the original. Ben Kingsley's performance is untouchable, so it's like no matter how good of a job this guy does playing a young Don, it's he's never gonna reach that point. But it's
Right.
building up. It's building up, and yeah, I mean it's not like an amazing show. It's not a great thing, but I'm gonna check out another episode two. We'll probably check out episode three if it's really not leading anywhere. It's nothing I'm dying to keep watching.
Mm-hmm. Scott, what do you think? What did you think about these two merging worlds? And obviously, they're different creators and everything.
It felt like a completely different story to me. Well, I it felt, the beginning. I I thought there was a variety of how they started it, because both start with someone sitting out and then on a white background,
It's the
and it
same
wound up
open,
being
yeah.
it's the same open. So one, actually, the series starts with someone on a rooftop, but the movie starts out with a guy sitting in a chair, but he's actually on a white, top
He's
of the
poolside.
patio of the poolside. And that one random kid, which I didn't mention, like what was with that kid constantly in the movie there, and he doesn't really say
Well,
anything.
the pilot episode starts as it's sort of like a tribute to the movie because it starts
Yes,
off with him like sunbathing on
Right.
this, like you said, but it's like a roof, but it's in London instead of like in Spain and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that. I didn't love the show. I thought, and it's hard to create a show, you know, when the original is such a unique kind of story. It's really character story. It's a story about these characters. And I just thought the show as a whole like had no subtlety whatsoever. Everyone is like super badass, and anytime there's a badass is in the scene, there's this like crazy rock music driving the scene. I just thought nothing was handled really gently, and that's common for stuff today. Especially when you contrast it to the movie, which is all subtlety. It's all the acting. There's nothing bombastic happening. There's no showmanship really.
I agree. Yeah.
And then
which is which is the exact opposite of what a prequel should be like. Because the movie itself pretty much was so light on music, where there almost wasn't any music, and then this show, it's like they don't have a second where there isn't music. So it's a prequel, but done as a present day series.
yeah, I think they rely, and this again, this goes to a lot of shows today. They rely on music to convey what the actors or what the characters might be feeling, or to, you know, communicate to the viewers what they should be feeling, regardless of what the scene is kind of calling for. Where the movie is a bit more raw in that sense, and the characters will carry that emotion for you, and you sort of understand it. Now it's not easy to do, but
But if the acting's really great and the writing's really good, you don't need the music to substitute for what's missing.
yeah. And then I just felt like all the characters came together way too soon. I wish that they were a bit more patient in at least introducing Gal to Dee Dee, or
Yeah.
introducing the gang to Teddy. Like, all that happens in episode one, and I was like, so every character from the movie is right here already, and like we got there already. We're already there. So I wish they would have stretched that out over season one, where maybe they do these jobs, and then they can find out inadvertently that they've been working for Teddy the whole time, but they don't meet him right away. They meet him later, so it kind of it develops this suspense about like the big bad boss a little bit, and maybe stretch out the romance with Dee Dee, because they do go into her story right away, like full blown as well. So I wish that stuff was a little different. And yeah, in general, I just feel like it's too polished.
Yeah, one of the first things I noticed was I'm like, this could have used like a little more of a vintage look to it.
Yeah. Yeah, everything looks
Um,
very clean.
and then yeah, it would have been cool to see like sort of each character's story on their own, and then like they eventually meet up and become friends or whatever.
Yeah. I do like Gal's actor a lot. I feel like he's great. And I think the guy who plays Don is also good, because he was, look, when you're asked to play Don from Kingsley, that's tough, but he's able to do it in a way that's a little bit more tame, implying that he's not there yet, at that level. He's not as confident all the time, and he still looks up to Gal in many ways. And hopefully they keep that dynamic interesting, and don't go like in episode 2 or 3 like full Don, which they might do.
Were you guys able to tell right away which character was which, like without even them saying the name? Because they look exactly like what they're supposed to look like.
Yeah. Um, so I watched the first episode first, so I knew the characters. Um, but when I saw Gal in the pool in the movie, I was like, okay, it was shot for shot, number one, so they don't really
Yeah,
make
yeah.
it tough. But when I saw H in the movie, I was just like, oh my God, I hope that's H. and it was. So I was like, I don't know, I like that. I like that all the characters are there. I just wish they didn't like throw it in my face right away, you know. But I did like it. I think the movie's is on a different level, but you know, if you have to build a series around it, you know, I think it's tough. But I think it's okay.
Yeah.
So would you recommend people give it a watch?
100%. Yeah, the movie definitely. The movie you got to watch. That's a classic. The show, it's up to you. If you want to see a little more, see where how things got to the way they are, but like we've all agreed, like this movie is kind of unique in the way that it's just puts you in this space and time, and it's just this glimpse at these characters, and
Yeah.
that was the original director's like intention.